Okay. Uh, so graduate education, and specifically I'll be focusing mainly on PhD education over here, is integral part of any academic environment. Especially higher education institutions, they rely a lot on creating new PhDs, and that's how the cycle goes, whereby we will be having the next set of researchers, next set of faculty members, next set of mentors who will be coming in and replacing some of us as time goes. So mentoring is a very, very important part. But I try to remember my own PhD days and try to look into how things went. And the next slide shows some of the aspects of those graduate school time. Of course, it seemed just like a kindergarten because there were times when you could find quietly time for napping also when you were totally bored. Uh, Sometimes you felt there is constant supervision from an adult, and that exactly happens in a kindergarten too. And I cannot tell you how many cookies I ate in those 3 years when I was doing my PhD during lunch hours. Endless number of cookies. Luckily in Sweden, we used to have a lot of cookies in the coffee room. And many a times, even after 1 o'clock, I used to go and have another 10 cookies with a cup of tea. And that was the only respite to keep my stomach filled in and keep on working. Nowadays, with computers, at that time I didn't have a computer, but nowadays people tend to do a lot of cutting and pasting when they are writing. So the same thing goes on in kindergarten too. You do a lot of cutting and pasting, but at the end of the day, you are able to prepare something spectacular. And creativity goes a long way. There are no grades. Yes, especially during the last 2 to 3 years of your PhD, uh, you yourself, you are now mentors, but you might have seen that there were no real grades. It was just research, 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 and we kept on working. And in kindergarten, it is play, play, play. And yes, there have been times when you were crying for your mommy that wish mom was there to really console you and help you, or friends were there to console you. So it literally was like a kindergarten going forward. But when we look at mentorship in the next slide, there are a number of components that are associated with this mentorship. Of course, it is very important that we are imparting training to the students. We have to keep them motivated. We are providing them advice. We are ensuring their success. We are giving them direction, that what direction they should take for the next experiment, or direction on how to prepare a manuscript, or direction on how to write their thesis, or direction on how to give their presentations. So it's a constant coaching, it's a constant support. And of course, the goal is that we provide mentorship, and that way we can create the next generation of PhD students. Well, then, what we do now next is that we try to have a very quick, next slide, Dr. Khaja. So we try to have a quick 3 polls over here to engage you in this discussion. So what's the most important thing for a graduate student during PhD education? And think it this way, that you have to think about the student's perspective. So from a student's perspective, what's the most important thing for a PhD student? And here are your choices. Getting good grades, getting a good research topic, having a motivating supervisor, or I don't care, getting a degree. That's all what it is about. So make your choices quickly, please. You can vote directly. I see quite a rapid movement. And those who have done the first question, the first poll, they can go to the second one and register if you are a PhD holder. And the third question is, how was your overall PhD experience if you are already a PhD holder?
We have the responses from most of the participants, so allow me to end the poll and share the results, please.
Yes, please, go ahead.
They all can see the results now.
Okay, so when we take a look at the first question, that from a student's perspective, what is the most important thing during their PhD education? And I think so, here we are kind of divided on getting a good research topic versus having a motivating supervisor. And of course, for some it is that getting a degree. I just want a PhD and I want to move on with my life, that kind of approach. But you have really picked two very important things, that getting a good research topic is indeed very, very important. So what is our role in that? That we make sure that the students get a really good research topic that excites them. And the next part, there has to be a supervisor who is very motivating. So for a supervisor to be indeed very motivating is very, very important. If you go to the next one, most of the people, or almost 3/4, have a PhD, and about 20% do not. That's a good indication of the population we have right now. And when we look into of those who have a PhD, what kind of experience did they have during their own PhD time? Most of you say that you had a wonderful experience, which is very nice to see, because then it reflects also on your hard work that you put in, but at the same time, the interaction you had with your supervisor. Because if you want to clap your hands, you have to put together both hands, and this is what has happened over here. Overall, I do see that the PhD experience was indeed good, because that's what is reflected almost in 3/4 of the poll. 14% was neutral. A very small proportion did not have a very good experience. Okay, so that's good to know. This is the base information that we have, and we leave the poll now, and we go over to the next slide, where I would like to write in your chat box the 2 attributes you most admired or are grateful about in your PhD mentor. So think about your PhD mentor. Go back. Those who have PhDs, think about your PhD mentor and try to identify 2 attributes that you admired the most or are grateful about today when you reflect back. So go to your chat boxes and please write over there those 2 things, 2 attributes. We'll take about 30 seconds. Availability, patience, supportive, understanding, not micromanaging, really good. Organized, yeah, I bet you want that. An understanding person, such an important attribute. Deep subject knowledge, yes. Approachable, very good. expertise and hands off, really nice. Understanding, an active international researcher when you were being mentored. Again, supportive. I think so. Supportive word is coming again and again. Approachable, organized, expert, and flexible. Okay, that's great. Wonderful. I think so. We are right on target, and we are getting the gist of what do we expect from ourselves as mentors and how should we behave. Let's go to the next one then. I really like it. Okay. What are the two attributes you disliked the most in your PhD mentor? Maybe it's only one thing that you disliked, but try to jot it down very quickly. That what are the two things that you really despised, or I shouldn't use the word hate, but yeah, let's keep it to disliked. Oh, you were very lucky, Raja. Literally everything was perfect. That's very good. None. I like that. Nothing. Very good. Come on, be honest, be honest. Lack of time, there comes one. Delayed in editing, very common thing, very common thing. And your supervisor was always busy. True, that can happen, that can happen. Quite often not available, traveling a lot. I say, all was great, good for you, Alia. None, always busy. Okay, good. So I'm very happy to note that you all were very lucky. And this is the general trend around the world, that the good sides of your professor were many more than the not so good sides, which apparently there are always, but you know, sometimes you can be mad at that time, but 5 years later or 10 years down the road, you feel differently. So we go to the next question then. So here is something very interesting and tricky. You know what happens is perception regarding your own PhD professor or mentor changes over the time. And mine has changed. So here is a poll, a very quick poll. So has your perception about your supervisor changed over the years? The first answer is no change, has become better, and dislike him even more. I just wait very quickly for a couple of votes. Probably, I think so. We are almost done on that. Right, Khaja, we are done?
Yeah, we have almost 3/4 of the responses. So yeah, I can
and I
end the
think
poll.
the 3/4 is the number of people who have a PhD degree. So I think so that's quite what it should be. So half of you think that there hasn't been any change, which is a very good sign too. But the more important sign is that it has become better. The best sign is nobody dislikes their professor more than they used to at the time of doing their PhD. Colleagues, perspective changes. And why does perspective change? Because at the time when we were doing our PhD, we had our PhD mentors. We hated them because they made us work very hard. It has changed over time because now we realize whatever they were trying to do largely was in our best interest. They wanted us to learn as best as we can. They wanted us to work hard and get the results that are expected out of us. So they raised our expectation, they raised our bar. And it's not surprising that almost 50% of the participants in this poll feel that I respect my professor more than I used to when I was a PhD student. And this is a very, very normal thing. Great, thank you so much. I can tell you about my own perspective. I literally hated my professor when I was doing my PhD. But every time today, when I think about my professor, I respect him more and more and more and more. To the extent that I find him, he was my second mentor in my career. So professors do have very high value, very high significance in the future career, because there are a number of things which you pick from your mentor, you adapt them, you adopt them, and then you use them going forward, because you find a lot of good things. And when you're yourself exposed to things, then you start implementing some of the things that you learned from your mentor. Next one, please. So we quit the poll now. Kaja, can we quit the poll?
Yeah, it's done.
It's done. Okay. Now, think about this way, that what are the two most important practices you will implement as mentor? So what's your mantra for graduate education, that now that you are or you will be a PhD mentor, what are the two most important things in your opinion that you would like to implement as a mentor? Please write them in your checkbox. And these are the type of things which you will say that I want to make sure that as a mentor, I will do this, I will do that. Provide support and continuous follow-ups. Great. I would like to be available. I would like to give the support. Allow students to make mistakes. Wonderful. That's very important. Help the student realize his or her potential. Very important. And perhaps, yeah, written report after every meeting, just to make sure that we are on the same page. Behave as human, not as a machine. Really like it. Be supportive, be encouraging, motivate and guide. Very, very, very important. Follow up and give student responsibility. Good, because responsibility is very important. This is the next evolution of the student from a student to a job. Understand student problems, give significance to that. Give them the opportunity to explore and be creative, Gulfaraz. That's very, very, very important. I totally agree with you. Support and let them discover their own path. Good. Two-way learning and make him ask more questions. Very good, because asking questions is extremely important. You're not spoon feeding, and provide opportunities to realize their own full potential. Wonderful, great. Okay, I think so the stage is set. I do get a lot of wonderful feedback through these questions from you. So let's go forward to the next slide and start looking now at the qualities of a mentor. And we begin with personal qualities of a mentor. And you know, it literally feels like that I'm trying to use your words that you have already expressed in your chat boxes and come up with the same or similar ideas and simply present them to you, just to reinforce what we already have seen in the chat boxes. So one of the first thing that comes to mind for a quality in a mentor is committed. The person has to be committed. We have made a choice that we will be mentors, and that choice is extremely important. And that choice has to be voluntary. So the commitment has to be really deep. We are becoming volunteers to create the next generation of researchers, or next generation of faculty members, or next generation of industry experts, or next generation of leaders, or next generation of policymakers. We cannot go wrong. We should not go wrong. We should not do wrong. And that's where the commitment becomes extremely important. And commitment goes hand in hand with interest, that I'm interested to make sure that I get the student also equally interested and make them learn something about the subject matter that I am expert in. Going to the next part, I should be I should be filled with enthusiasm in whatever I tell to the student, because my enthusiasm can be contagious for the student and make the student equally enthusiastic to do whatever he or she will be doing together with me. So it's a journey together. If both are enthusiastic, there will be success, there will be creativity, there will be novelty, there will be discovery. So enthusiasm is very, very, very important. And together with that, if a mentor has got a very supportive personality, suddenly the student feels empowered that I can do. I can make a difference. I can learn. I can become better. And that supportive personality of a mentor goes a very long way, right from day one to the last day when he or she graduates. The last personal quality I really pay a lot of emphasis is on discovery oriented. The person has to be very creative, has to have an attitude that I want to discover something new. You know what? Sometimes what happens is when students are doing research, they're just replicating a research that has already been done in another part of the world. So the level of novelty, the level of new thing in that is rather limited. So the person has to be very excited about being discovery oriented so that the same thing can spill over to the PhD students. So these are some of the basic things I wanted to talk with you more as personal qualities of a mentor, which should be there. These are the fundamental things which should be in the mindset of a mentor when he or she is taking a PhD student. Going to the next slide then. Just wanted to show you this thing that, hey, Tim, there is more to coaching than trying to get everyone to be just like you. Remember, mentors do not create clones. Mentors do not create clones. And we have to refrain from that. We don't have to impose our thoughts. We don't have to impose our approaches on the PhD student, because then it is a one-way oppression, I call it, that we are trying the PhD student to think the way we think. And the moment that we are doing, we are putting them in a box and we are not allowing their evolution. So we have to nurture creativity in a very gentle way, in a very supportive way, in a very enthusiastic way. Remember, don't create somebody like you, create somebody better than you. And that should be the approach. And whenever you want to create something better, let the student take the opportunity to evolve and do things slightly differently. So if the students are doing it slightly differently, it is okay. It should be acceptable. That level of acceptance should be in the in the mentor. So going over to the next slide, what are the professional qualities that we should be looking at? Of course, as you all have already mentioned, and I'm just repeating it probably, that the knowledge of the mentor in that specific area should be deep, should not be peripheral, should have a very good understanding, should have a mastery, should be an expert. I go to the level, and not expert just at one place, but globally there should be some level of standing. And that's why I say he or she should be a recognized professional. Now, some of you might ask, hey, I'm just starting. I'm just, I'm an assistant professor. I recently started. I totally respect what you're asking of me, but I'm still growing. Absolutely fine. you are in the right direction, but keep that mindset that I will constantly keep on growing together with my graduate students, and I will make sure that my knowledge will expand. One day, inshallah, I will be an expert who will be recognized globally as a professional who is respected. So kudos to you, but keep that attitude. And those who have these, I think so, the students really love it because they respect that the professor knows what they are talking about. Now, how to measure these things, and how will one go in that direction? Of course, you all know, I don't need to say, a strong publication record goes a long way, a very long way. And you have to be very active in research. And when you say very active in research, it is a given that you are writing a lot of grant proposals and you're getting a lot of funding. So funding and publication are two measures that are very, very important. And it adds to your ability to be a good mentor too, because on the one side, you are thinking of how to get those fundings, you are creating projects, and on the other hand, you are getting a person who you are engaging in those projects, and together both of you are moving forward with some positive outcomes. The last two things that I've put over there are, in my opinion, very important too. It is critical that a mentor also goes out on international stage and presents frequently, has a great international network, not just to collaborate, but also to interact, exchange ideas, and is able to present the novelty that he or she has brought to the table. So should be a good speaker. Some of us are not, but it is okay. Some of us can think better than speak better. Some of us can write better than speak better. That is okay too. But I think so in academia, it is an expectation that you have to give a talk sooner or later. So a person who is shy or has got apprehensions to give talks eventually ends up giving really good talks. And in the same vein, a very good international network goes a long way. Why for a mentor? Because then you can send your mentees to this network and let them evolve. That becomes very important. So in terms of professional qualities, these are the things that I feel are very important in a mentor. Let's go to the next slide. So what is a mentor's track record of student success? Now, when we talk about track record, let me again go to recently appointed assistant professors who have finished their PhD and have finished their postdocs, and they will say, excuse me, I don't have a track record of student success, so am I just pushed aside? No. In an early career, that is really very good, because the level of enthusiasm young faculty members carry in mentoring is huge. Typically, it goes up from early stages of the ladder to associate professor, and it becomes more mature when people have become full professors. So early career, you don't have to worry, but just hold some of the qualities, both at a personal level, also at a professional level, and you will be there one day. But when we are thinking of a track record of student success, let us look at mid and late career faculty members and see that what are the outcomes that depict the track record of a mentor in relation to student success. So I'll invite you to the chat box once again, and can you write down your thoughts in short phrases or single words that, in your opinion, what outcomes show that this particular mentor is really has a huge record of student success? How do you measure that record? What are the different things that are important? Can you please put your thoughts in the chat box. Publications. Okay. I'm looking forward for more. Subject knowledge. Okay. Number of students graduated. Good. Having results in reasonable time frame. Very good. Regularity of updates and progress in students. Okay. Previous supervision or at least interaction with undergraduate students. Very good. Awards at competitive conferences. Nice. Number of students successfully completed. Joint publications. Recommendations. Okay, so let me go to the next slide and just share my thoughts about it with you. Thank you for your thoughts. And this is not very difficult from different from what you have presented. It is the number of students graduated on time. That is one of the track records of measuring the student success. Also, the students that you have graduated at the end of graduation, when they are leaving your lab or leaving the university, what kind of CV do they have? Is it a strong CV with good number of high quality publications? That contributes to the track record of the mentor, that because of him or her, we worked really hard, and the mentee or the student is coming out with a CV that he or she can cash pretty quickly around the world. That is success. And what goes from there is how many of the PhD students of that mentor received prestigious post-PhD grants. When I say post-PhD grants, in several countries, as soon as you finish your PhD or right at the time when you're finishing your PhD, you can already apply for prestigious postdoc grants. How many of your students are able to get those grants? Those possibilities are limited over here, but I'm taking a global perspective. So I have put this thing over here because it becomes very important that these PhD students at the time when they are finishing are able to write grants and get grants for their own salary and funding to do research immediately thereafter. So it's very good. And reputed postdoc or industry placements after doing a PhD, the credit goes also to the mentor, that he or she has mentored the students so nicely that they are getting prestigious jobs, whether it is government, whether it is industry, whether it is international organization, or it is yet another high profile lab. So that goes a very long way. How many local and global collaborators a mentor has? That also is a measure of the success, because then the students can piggyback on that and get more opportunities. How many prestigious jobs and progressions the students, past students, and maybe 10 years ago graduated students, where are they today? I remember a faculty member in Sweden whose students are distributed all over the world. Almost 200 students he has graduated up till now, and they are in key positions or key universities or key industries around the world. That is referred to as student success. So where do your students go after finishing your lab is a measure of the success of the mentor. That is what we need to think about, that do they have excellent careers? Do they have good jobs? Do they have good positions? Are they being successful in whatever career they are going? Typically, we as people in academia always think of academia as the only way to go, but no, they should go in diverse branches. They should still be successful. And that is what is, in my humble opinion, the measure of student success of a mentor. Next slide, please. So the mentor should be naturally very genuinely interested in the research project that is being awarded to a graduate student. Of course, it is also expected that the mentor understands the area thoroughly. It's not me who's just saying it. You people wrote it even in the chat box. So I totally agree with you. The mentor should be able to understand the area thoroughly, should be passionate for advancing research in the area that has been chosen for the student, should be really passionate, because without that passion, the students sense it very quickly and they become skeptic about the intention of the mentor or even the project, and it can cause them, they can be depressed about it. So the enthusiasm, the passion, and the confidence that my professor really understands what she or he is saying and understanding goes a very long way. And one thing where you don't need to tell or you don't need to speak, your record speaks. So your publication and your funding goes a very long way in expressing that you indeed are passionate, but at the same time, you have a total command on the subject matter and you know what you are telling to the PhD student and you are guiding him or her in the right way that is needed. At the same time, the mentor has to be a very highly responsible individual. And again, I'm picking things that you have already said, that a mentor should always help the students stay on schedule. And it is very common, very normal that students can go astray. There can be different situations because of which this can happen. Experiment could be going wrong, grades could not be going in the right direction, comprehensive did not go very well, or there are many things that happen. So a responsible mentor makes sure that he or she meets with the graduate student on a very regular basis, have an open conversation, and that way the student is making a steady progress, ensures that the student is making a steady progress. And this way, when this is done, then the student can finish within a set time frame and can move forward with his or her career going forward. So it's a huge responsibility that needs to be kept in mind. One of the challenging things with mentors is how much time do they have? They're juggling between writing proposals, they're juggling between meetings, which administratively they have to be part. And as you grow in your career, these committee meetings they just become like a mountain. And very little time is left to be able to sit with your mentee and discuss things in peace. And there could be other assignments. And like some of you mentioned in your, in your chat box, that some of the mentors are traveling, but they are not traveling just for fun. Now you know that when you are traveling, you are interacting with your network, you are giving presentation, you are trying to find new collaborations. So all those things are very important. But in the mix of this travel, these committee meetings, teaching, writing manuscripts, writing grant proposals, and I can go on and on and on. The bigger question is, poor graduate students desperately looks, can I find some time, sir or ma'am? So it's very important that come what may be, however busy you are as a mentor, you should have enough time to provide adequate and effective supervision. And note my words, adequate is important, because sometimes one might feel that, okay, I've got 15 minutes, quickly, quick. I mean, you've put pressure on the student. The student is already nervous and is afraid that, oh, whatever I'll be presenting, maybe it is wrong, maybe it's not so wrong, maybe I messed up the experiment, there you go. By putting a deadline that I've got only 15 minutes for you, the enthusiasm of the student goes down. So whenever you sit with the student, it's very important as a mentor that you have adequate time. You're sitting with patience, you're sitting with calm, you're sitting with total attention to the student and whatever he or she is telling you. And the other side is effective supervision. Effective is very important, that whatever you're telling the student makes sense and lets the student move from point A to point B, from point B to point C. So there has to be progression. And a very good measure of effective supervision is progression. And progression takes in a number of positive things together. So that has to be kept in mind. But other things quickly that should be, which probably you all have mentioned too, is despite your time limitation, you have to be accessible. And whenever you are accessible, you are trying to show the graduate student your willingness to contribute, to help. And that's where, if a student finds that he or she needs you at a particular time, they should also feel that you're approachable. It's not that your administrative assistant or somebody is telling that, no, today I don't have time. Or you yourself have told them, sorry, my calendar looks, you know what, very busy today also. And this entire week I've got some meetings and I just can't. No, find time. There is a person who relies on you, on your help, on your guidance. And that's where your attitude towards that person should be really supportive and positive. So be available, be accessible, be approachable. These three qualities are extremely important, even if you have the least amount of time. Find time in the evening. Students are willing to come. And all the time, whenever you're speaking with the students, invest in understanding what are the real needs of the student. Sometimes when you don't understand what the student is needing, then your advice might go in the wrong direction. And typically, PhD students are rather quiet. They take whatever comes from the supervisor, from the mentor, afraid that if they try to interrupt or if they try to say something, then it can go wrong. So have the time and patience. If you feel that the student is not able to speak all the things which he or she wants to say, then the whole purpose is lost. So give time, and that's where time is important, and your understanding about the needs of the student is very important. The two, when they can be put together, can be very, very effective. So here's just an example. I wanted to show a cartoon that the student comes and asks that, hey, I really need some help from you. And the answer is, yeah, I'm coordinating 5 different R&D projects and I'm writing 100 manuscripts or whatever it is. And I've got all these meetings and I can spare a minute. I mean, you've killed the enthusiasm of the student. Never do that. Make sure you find time. You have taken a student, you have taken a responsibility. It's just like having children. You have children, you have to give them time. And these are children in the academic arena. So give them time. Next slide, please. Communication and interaction are extremely, extremely important. And you got to talk with the PhD students on a regular basis and talk proactively. You can't just sit back and say, hey, that's the duty of the PhD student to find me, to catch me, or to book a time. I'm too busy. And no, that attitude doesn't work. It has to be good communication. That's why the word good is very important. It's not just communication. It has to be meaningful communication. And these meaningful communications are extremely important. And the question is come over here, are you giving these lectures to supervisors too? Well, This particular lecture is specially for the mentors, especially for the mentors. Anyway, whenever this communication happens, keep one thing in mind, that on the one hand, we want to be supportive, we want to be positive, but we also have to be candid. We can't be dishonest. The moment you are trying to keep wiggle rooms and are not clear in your communication, the students can misunderstand what you're trying to say and may not be able to accomplish as much as you would like them to be accomplished, like them to accomplish. If things are not right, be straightforward that, hey, listen, you're trying hard. I know you did this experiment the second time. I know you're frustrated, but let me be very honest, there still is something wrong because these results do not make any sense of me. So when I say that you have to be honest in your communication, I want to make sure that your communication is still supportive and positive. That's very, very important. You cannot be condescending to the students. Try not to, please, because that kills the morale of the students. And you have to be supportive. You're there as a support. And when their biggest pillar collapses or hurts them, nothing more can hurt the students beyond this. So a candid communication, an open communication, a regular communication is important, but at the same time, it should be positive, constructive, and supportive. And that's where you have to be very sensitive in what you are saying. You can use positive spin to whatever you say. Show flexibility, be empathetic. Make sure that you make the PhD students feel that I understand you, I have been in those same shoes, I've gone through tough times, but we will get over it together. This little support, this little encouragement, this little motivation goes to takes the student to a totally different level. And you know, when the student walks out from your office, the student is smiling, beaming, and taking failure with confidence that, okay, never mind, there's somebody behind me who will help me, who will support me, who will take care of me, and I will succeed, inshallah, the next time. Next one. Needless to say that there has to be a culture of mutual respect and there has to be a level of high professionalism. Never forget that you are not, as a mentor, you're not on a high seat. Sit at the same place where the student is sitting. Give respect, get respect. It's a very simple philosophy. And even if you're not getting respect, don't leave your seat of respect. Giving respect, don't leave it, because you have to show respect to the young budding researcher or policymaker or leader of the future, and you are contributing to making him or her. So never forget the professionalism that goes together with it. Never forget the values that should be associated with it. Always maintain that grace, because that grace is a huge contributing factor to the success of the students, okay? Remember one thing in mind that, can we go to the previous one last? It's very, very important. Mentors, they should never, never, ever feel that they are bosses. Never, ever. Because that, as soon as you have communicated that I am the boss and I'm the controller, okay, you control your lab, right? You control the budget of the grants, right? You control the ideas that you have, right? But do not make the other person feel unworthy. You have to make the other person feel that you are a colleague of mine, even if you are a student. And this attitude goes a very long way. Unfortunately, and it does not happen very often, but rarely, the students are taken as slaves. And jokingly, in student circles, PhD students, they call, oh, well, I'm a slave. But that's okay. I mean, that's more in a light vein. But make sure that your attitude, your behavior, your approach really makes the student, you know, the amount of respect I get from my mentor, despite I'm making so many mistakes, create a totally different level of commitment from the student, and creates a different level of humility in the student. And we are not just graduating students over here who have understanding of the subject matter. I always say we are graduating the future citizens. So focusing only on one area and presenting it in a tough manner is not the right way to give things. Yes, we can give, sometimes mentors give hard time to their students, but hard time is to increase their learning, add value to what they know, make them grow. That's a different story, but not on a personal level. Thank you. Next slide. So when it comes to scientific and technical guidance, and this is very, very important, a mentor should work together with the student and provide direction and structure to the work or to the project. And why I'm saying this thing is not preparing the project and giving to the student, but providing direction. So makes the student think that, you know what, you would like to do X, Y, and Z. What do you think about it? The student may have questions. The supervisor can have more questions to the student and can say, you know what, go and read some of these articles and that will help you understand things better. So we are not here for spoon feeding. We are here for growth of the PhD students. And as mentors, our job is to provide direction, exactly verbatim, provide direction, and give a structure to the work when the student is not able to conceive it in the best possible manner. We make them help make decisions regarding the design, how the experiment has to be prepared, what things have to be put on the table, or what searches have to be done in literature, and then execute those research. And when the raw data of whatever research they are doing is available, how to understand it, how to synthesize the meaning of it, how to analyze it. And analyze is just one part. Contextualize it. Contextualize against what? Against the current literature. And that is very important, because at the end of the day, you're coming up with conclusions, and conclusions are not blind. They are either totally novel, which can be explained in relation to what is available today, that novelty, or in relation to what is available today, that, yeah, we agree with what we see, but here's something new that we have seen. So that those type of thinking has to be developed, and we as mentors can do a very important job in making sure that they do that. Also, a mentor should make sure that we are creating a mentee that is an independent thinker. So we should not impose our thoughts on them continuously. We can gently toss that, you know what, I know what you're trying to say, but this is how I feel about it, and pull out this article that was published in 2019 and another article that came out in 2021. Take a look at it, read it, and then we will discuss this point again. So that way you are creating independent thinkers. And mind it, there are times when we should have the grace to accept if the mentee is coming with a brighter idea than what we had thought at the time of the start of the experiment. We have to be very open-minded on that. And in such a situation, if there are independent thinkers, they will really blossom. They will become better than us, and that should be our goal all the time. So analysis, synthesis, we have to make sure that they write and present, and we have to help them. As mentors, this is our duty. And there were times when I had 3 or 4 students in my career who I literally sat down and listened to their presentation and helped them present those things. And it was transformational for them because they were so scared of the stage. They were so scared of the audience. And today they are orators. They're wonderful orators and very high positions around the world. So ability to write and ability to present, trust me, these are the 2 most fundamental things that we should inculcate in our PhD students. And this is the duty of the mentor next to subject matter knowledge and the research. These 2 things are very, very important going forward. Oops. And we need to constantly keep on providing constructive support, timely support, I've already mentioned, and edits, not write-ups. We are not writing for the graduate students. A mentor should not. This is a mistake some of us might be making. We should not do that. We should provide them edits. Let them come up again. Provide them the next level. Let them look into the literature more. Let them write whatever they've done, whether it's a thesis proposal or a manuscript or thesis itself or dissertation. We have to make them write, and we provide our feedback, honest feedback, nice feedback, positive feedback, constructive feedback. Next one. Next, yeah. And our goal eventually as mentors is that let us allow the student to get to their fullest potential. Let us let them blossom as you all mentioned. And a balanced mentoring approach has to be used, that we don't push them too much. At the same time, we are not hands off either, that we don't care. Oh, the student will find a way to succeed eventually after falling 100 times. No, this is not what life is about. This is not how you were treated by your mentor. And may I go a little further? This is not how you were treated by your own parents when you were a little kid. If you keep that sentiment in your mind, you will always be mindful, ready, available to help as soon as the student is falling. So that mentoring approach should be there. Allow students to evolve. Let them make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. Never tell them, oh gosh, you've really messed it, and you should be reprimanded. I mean, that's not the right word, but don't make them feel bad. But yes, let them know candidly, and that's why I use the word candid, that this is not going in the right direction, but provide them guidance. That's why you are a guide. You're there to provide guidance, not letting them out and letting them fall and letting them find their way to failure or to success. Help them realize that this was the mistake, but at the same time, help them realize their own potential also. Your job is to bring the best out of them so that in the future, wherever they go, in academia, industry, government, organization, whatever, NGOs, they should be very successful. And it is these type of things that you provide to them will help them in the long run. Next one. Very quickly, I will go through these slides because there are some polls coming and I would like to get your opinion on them. Make sure, because there's ethics and respect, they go a very long way. Promote PhD students as much as possible. You have a career, they don't. Make sure they have a very good career. And trust me, if they will be successful in their life, all credit will be to you. And we are not running after credit, that we are not wanting our students to go around in the world and say that Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so was my professor and she was wonderful. That's not what we are looking for. We just want them to be successful. The rest, everything will come back your way. So make sure that you promote them, whatever platform do you get. Whenever you talk about research, and if a student has done, make sure that student is mentioned, that you know what, this result that I'm presenting was done by my student so-and-so, and I'm really proud of him or her that she has done really hard, and I've been able to present this. So that acknowledgement goes a very long way. So whenever there is a chance of acknowledging your student, give that acknowledgement. And when I say that, I also mean about the publications that come out. Give them the front stage. If you will give them the front stage, I tell you, I cannot even explain how much respect I have for my PhD advisor, who always gave me the first authorship. And he always used to say, "You did it. I just helped you." Wow. And I ended up with 7 publications, first author, all of them. I have got huge respect, and that CV made a big difference in my transition to the next job. I mean, in many ways, you can be a role model, but make sure that you never, ever, ever prey on the sentiments of the pre-PhD students. They are at the lowest rung of the ladder. Never let them do that. Never let them do that. Never let them fall. The ladder is only for them to rise, and you should be right behind them, helping them go up, 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 and up. Next slide, please. Of course, needless to say that make sure that they have a very good understanding of the subject matter of the topic of research, but the topic should be not restricted, but it should be a wider knowledge. Help build their CVs and give them the credits. And I've already talked about the platforms, and make sure that they, in their last year, already start thinking about what next. And you as mentor can play a very important role and guide them to think it that way. And the last thing I would like to say is, my professor really allowed me to get engaged with proposal writing very early in my PhD career. What a difference it made to me. I cannot be more grateful to him than I can express myself. So engage students, encourage them to be part of your proposal writing. It's very, very, very important. Next one. Now we are going to some polls, and I will really be very happy to get your very quick opinion. Let us get engaged into it. You know what? I've not talked about interdisciplinarity up till now. We take the first question, that interdisciplinary part, how critical it is in graduate education. What's your opinion about it? Let's go for this first question. Register your opinion on it.
I hope the poll is live and you can register your responses, I guess.
So there are 3 questions over here. First is interdisciplinarity, how critical it is in graduate education. And the next one is, in your opinion, where do we stand in UAE University, in our university, regarding interdisciplinarity and cross-college engagements in graduate education? That's the second question. And the third question is, should graduate students be affiliated only with activities connected to lab and the professor? Just a few more and we are there almost. Really happy to get your participation.
We have 75% now.
Okay, let's then go forward. So it's nice to see that it is very important. You all feel very important. This is how it should be. Graduate education should not be like blinders on a horse. and the horse sees only a narrow path. That's not what graduate education is about. You have to grow with peripheral knowledge also. And I'm really thrilled that more than half of you feel that it is critical in graduate education. Actually, you find it more or less that it is important. It should become more and more a part of what it is. And the next poll clearly also shows that we still have to go some way to make sure that what we have mentioned in the first question regarding interdisciplinarity, we need to work in that direction. And I put it on purpose over there as an eye opener so that we all understand that we really want this to happen, but we are still ways away from making it happen, so that we start working towards it. That's the idea for the first and the second question. And I am really happy to see the answer for the third question, that the graduate students should not be limited only to the activities of the lab and the professor. My goodness, you have overwhelmingly made a statement. I really admire you and the thought process that goes with it. They have to go beyond that. Great, wonderful. Anybody would like to say anything on any of these three questions? If you would, briefly, 1 minute, raise your hand and I'll call you out. Okay.
Professor, we have one hand raised. Should we unmute?
Please, unmute, yeah, please.
Yes.
Very quickly, short.
Please go ahead.
Dr. Berhanu?
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor. It was a very interesting guide. In fact, a guiding toolkit for the graduate students, very helpful. We also learned a lot from it. Regarding this question of interdisciplinariness, I think it will become more and more important, because at the end of the day, what the graduate students learn and do in terms of research need to be socially impactful. What I mean is, it's not really doing research for its sake, but to see at its application. By that, I'm saying, what are the various implications of a research in terms of societal impact, not only for the science itself. So I think we encourage our graduate students, if they can involve the social side of their research, the technology side of research, and so on. That's what I wanted to comment.
Okay. Okay. Any other comment? Any other thought? There's a second person wanting to say.
Yes, can I?
Please.
Yeah. I think from that survey, something is very, I totally agree with you, Professor Bano. It's very startling and spot on, in my opinion. I've been fortunate enough to have worked in a number of kind of leading sort of institutions. And one thing I've noticed is some of the best ideas have actually come from not necessarily working in your closed domain, but when you're actually interacting with others in a totally different perspective. And you think, oh, I'm working on this aspect of this molecule, but somebody's working in environmental science. No, could I actually apply that technology to answer my questions?
Yeah.
Because if you're focused in your idea, you don't see the bigger picture sometimes, in my opinion. And when you interact with outside your domain, at least in my opinion, that is, I've noticed some of the best ideas have actually come from individuals, or when you're just having a cup of coffee, having a chit chat with colleagues out of your own domain. And you thought, oh, wow, I can apply that to my idea. And you had really fantastic results.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, my dear friend. Thank you very much. This was really important. And I think so your perspective from around the world is also very valuable, because this is how the world works. And this is the direction we also are trying to implement within our university to make sure that our students, they get perspective from outside the lab. And that's what outside the box is all about. If you're boxed in the lab and if you're boxed with the professor, sorry to say, a day will come when your knowledge will be limited. I'm not saying it as a scary statement, but a statement which really needs to be looked into carefully when we are mentoring our students. So we go to next 3 questions for our poll, and they are open for you. The first question is, it is actually wisdom that is beyond PhD subject matter that will make the students successful in the future. And when we are talking about successful in the future, that means in their careers. So PhD on one side, but yes, beyond PhD, the bigger thought process that you grow with, the wisdom that you gain, not just about the subject, but related subject matter also, interaction also. That is what will make a huge difference in the career as you go forward. And the next question after that is, typically students deviate significantly in what they do during their career compared to what they did in their PhD. Is that a norm? And the last question is related to graduate student association. Is it a waste of time and waste of professors' precious research funds? I would really like to get your opinion on all these things.
Almost there. We are 61% right now.
It's getting close. And okay, I think so. In the essence of time, let's.
Yeah.
If there's no more, then let's quickly go forward with it. Okay, and perhaps it is reflective of what others might be telling. So yeah, so true. Things that we learn beyond our PhD subject matter goes a long way in how we shape our future, how successful we are. So as much important as the PhD subject is, there are other things that are related to it, professional development, and all those things are very, very important. And thank you very much for stating it emphatically over there. So the next question is related to, do we end up doing the same type of things that we did during our PhD, or we change or we transform? And I think so. 65% of you have stated very clearly, or rather I should say almost 80% of you that students, they deviate significantly and they start doing something different. I mean, what I did at my PhD, I'm not doing exactly the same thing. It's hugely different. Keep in mind, the subject also evolves, and it has been evolving rapidly. Subjects have been evolving rapidly during the last 2 decades. Technology changes. So those of us who feel, and I'm saying especially to the PhD students, that I respect that you are very passionate about your PhD topic, but trust me, it is sure, more or less sure, that you will be doing something very different 10 years down the road. So keep an open mind. And that's where the mentors, we as mentors, have also to keep a very open mind, that when we have evolved, we will be asking students to do new things, different things. And the last answer for the last question is a huge statement, which I have been trying to emphasize for a very long time, that graduate student associations are extremely, extremely, extremely important. The interaction the things that people do in there are very important. Some of us have benefited from these graduate student associations, and I profess on and on and on, and will do it endlessly, that this is very important activity that should be adopted. And those who feel that I got the money, student needs to be working with me, and even spending 2 hours of a month for professional development or for interaction is not good, I think so that's a wrong approach. And thank you very much for making that statement. So we go to the last 2 questions, or probably the next 2 questions. Typically, who should write the review articles? And should PhD students write grant applications? I'm seeing an interesting trend over here. It's really worth noting. So let me address the first question then. Typically, who should write review articles? In my humble opinion, the person who has the set of experience that is necessary and a breadth of understanding, the depth and breadth of understanding, is ideally suited to write a review article. There's no doubt about that. Recent PhDs, they typically write a nice article, review article, because they have the huge review literature. They've dived deep into it, and they come up with essence of things. PhD students in advanced stages is similar to recent PhDs, so totally concur with it. What I'm very interested to note is that a PhD student who is just still learning things, has just started doing experiments, can that student be an authority to write a review? I leave you with that question, not providing any answer, but I leave it with you people. And should PhD students write grant applications? They have to learn one day, sooner or later. The sooner is better. So I think so encouraging students to write grant application is really a very important thing. Okay, so now the last few slides, if we can move to the next slide, please, and the next. Go to the last 2 slides, please. Next. I think so we leave the poll questions, the takeaways, yes. So think it this way, that PhD is just a small but critical part of the journey, and you have got the opportunity to be a mentor. So we as mentors have to take it very seriously. We can make this journey of our students decisive and memorable, which they will cherish throughout their life and they will be thankful about. It is an opportunity that has been given to us. So we are on a very high seat to nurture a budding talent and make that talent go better. We should have expectations from the students, but we should not expect that they will do miracles. No, we will help them do miracles. But last and not the least is that we are enablers. Let us be the people who will empower the students and make sure, and I want to emphasize this last part, make sure that we make them better than us. This is all what mentorship is all about. If they stay below us, always I feel that I've not done my job. If we have made them better than us, I think so we have done the job right. So thank you very much. I'll be happy and open to comments, or I don't know if I can answer questions, but I think so I've shared my thoughts with you. I'm really grateful for your comments on the chat box. I think so we meet quite a bit on similar grounds, but I'm ready to respond.
Thank you so much, Professor, for your valuable time and information that you have shared with all of us today. So can we have 5 minutes of question and answers if anyone does have any question? You
Or
can
comment.
raise or comment, you can raise your hand or type in the chat box and we will share it with the professor. And we'd also like to thank Dr. Khaja for organizing and helping us with the slides and the polls.
And thank you also.
Thank you, Professor.
Maybe we can unmute everyone so that if anyone has a question or comment, they can, I guess, do Rahman.
Yes, if anyone has a question, you can raise your hand and we will unmute you accordingly so you can ask. Please note that this meeting was recorded and it will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. So if you want to revisit any information, you can do that. And your feedback is very valuable to us. So please do fill the feedback form that we have just sent the link to in the chat box. Okay, so I believe we don't have any more questions. So again, one more time, thank you so much, Professor, for your time. And thank you, Dr. Khaja, and thank you to all the faculty members and everyone who attended the meeting. So we will meet again, inshallah, very soon in future workshops. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.